Welcome back to Tall Tips from Short Guys. I'm Sean Scott. That is Pearson Sturdivant. And today we are going to be talking about does money equal happiness? I know last time we talked about an attitude of gratitude, but we're going to be talking about does money equal happiness? And there's no easy answer for this one. So if you're watching right now, I see there's quite a few people on the live watching right now. Just feel free to comment, and we can kind of make this an open discussion on if you think money equals happiness. My personal opinion is that, no. And I say this, my take is sort of unique. I grew up in a divorced family, and my mom had she wasn't rich. We lived in a nice area, don't get me wrong, and my dad had a lot to do with that, helping out. But my dad was pretty wealthy growing up, so I grew up pretty privileged, going on some nice vacations and things like that. So, but I'll tell you that for me, money didn't make me happier, although I really thought it did. I mean, for me, it was we got to do cool stuff because we had money. And so my opinion of the whole thing was that money made me happy because it afforded nice things. And that's why we were able to do this, because of money. But when you think about it, it really does not make everything better. And Pearson, we were talking a little bit before the show about how I'll kind of intro the story about being able to go to an amusement park and how it should make you happy when you have this, but maybe tell us the story in your own words.
Okay. So I was hanging out with my friend, and he was asking me how much money I brought to hang out with him. And so we were comparing how much money we brought, and we thought we were really cool. And his mom told us this story about this family that they had money, they were very wealthy, and they could pretty much go to Disneyland whenever they wanted because they lived in the area and they had a pass. And so and she talked about how they really never had as much fun as a family that didn't get to go as often had. Because, it's about getting to go there, because not a lot of people
it's
get
an
that
experience.
opportunity. Yeah, it's an experience. So if you go there all the time because you have money, it really it's not as magical as if you don't have the money to go and
right.
You have the money to go,
right.
And you finally do get to go. It's just not as a magical experience. So
right. And it is the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
He makes a good point. Being able to do fun things more often, it doesn't make it more fun because you're able to do it. Yeah. Another way for me to describe this is I would love to go out to eat at nice restaurants every single night. But I'll tell you, the meals that mean more to me are the ones where I cook for my kids and we all just sit at the table and talk. It means more. I didn't spend as much, but the experience for me is better because it's with the people that I love and I'm just having a good time. And I'm able to do that when we may just take going out to eat for granted. So for me, now, I mean, not to say you shouldn't have standards, and some of the standards that you have may cost a little bit, and that's fine. But if you're working hard for it and you really feel like you earn it and deserve it, then that's totally fine. I'm not trying to diminish. I'm not trying to say that all rich people are miserable. They're certainly not. It definitely affords you to be able to do some pretty cool stuff. But there's a guy here in Tucson, and I haven't seen him in a long time, and I hope he's still alive. But I would drive up and down on a road, and there's this guy, and no matter how hot or how cold it was, there would be this guy, and he was rather overweight. And he'd be power walking and always wear short red shorts. It was not very flattering, but he was owning that, okay? And sunglasses and a red hat, and it was just plain, and he just and shoes, but never wearing a shirt. And he he was round. He's a big guy. But this guy had such a passion for life, and I found out like he just lived a very modest lifestyle, but he was an extraordinarily happy dude. Wasn't wealthy, wore the same thing every day, went out running for like 4 hours. I mean, he was out there all day. Like it was a long thing, but if you ever, the cool part about this is if you ever roll down the window to listen to him, he'd be like, yeah, woo, and he'd just be like cheering himself on while he listening to music. But he wasn't singing. He was just like super excited to just be out there enjoying life. And he just lived a very modest lifestyle. It was not about money for him. There was another guy that he would always wear this black Speedo, and he would ride a beach cruiser around town. And I don't know if he was homeless or what his deal was, but like he was just the happiest dude. And I know he passed away because there was a story in the paper, but this guy just enjoyed what he had. And what he had was not much. He wasn't driving around a sports car. He had a beach cruiser bicycle and a black Speedo. And that was his thing. But it's just so cool to watch people just enjoying life. To kind of further illustrate the point of does money equal happiness, I actually did this. I know that when we were last week's episodes, we were talking about taking the next step, and we were talking about a friend of mine who would carry water and sandwiches and stuff like that. So I decided to do that this week and help out some of the homeless people that are in my area. There's a couple that are kind of right around the corner. There's one a little bit further northwest of where I am, and so when I'm picking the kids up from school, I wanted to do something, and it is really hot out. I mean, this week was like 112 one day, 106 another day, 110. It was just brutal hot, and I made it a point to go get some water so that I could help them out. And so one of them was selling newspapers, so I bought one of his newspapers. I handed him just a large bottle of water, and you could tell that that's all it took to make him happy. He sold his newspaper. He got a bottle of water. He didn't have any water on him. I mean, like I sometimes I wish I could do more when it comes to things like that. But this, like his version of happiness, was all centered around the fact that someone cared enough to give him a bottle of water and buy his newspaper. And then there's a guy over here, kind of near where I live, and he's got a sign. He's a veteran. I'd love to go talk to him. In fact, I'd love to bring this show on the road and talk to him. I think that'd be a super interesting show. And when we get mobile capabilities, maybe with like some handheld microphones or something like that, we could do that. Is I think seeing the other side and seeing how fortunate that we are every time. And if you're watching or listening to this, and you have the means and opportunity to do a lot because you have a phone or an iPad or a car stereo, excuse me, and you are able to watch and listen to us, and so you have the means, you have everything that you need to be happy with things like that. And so I'd love to interview a couple people that we see that are less fortunate, to show that you don't need all these extravagant things. I mean, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to talk about this. I'm not a wealthy guy. I mean, my family does really well. I don't have that. I live in a nice apartment with my 2 kids, but I don't have a big house. I don't have a lot of money. And I'm very fortunate to be able to afford a couple nice pieces of equipment to do that stuff. But, it doesn't, the money that I spent on this does not in and of itself make me happy. It's the fact that I'm able to sit here with Pearson and talk to you out there watching and listening. And that's the joy I get out of this. So, download our podcast, try and listen, really absorb everything that we're doing, and use it to your advantage. Whatever makes you happy. I mean, if it takes a little bit of money, not a lot of money to do it, then I think that happiness is so, going back to the gratitude, just like being happy for what you have. I was one of those kids growing up that had a season pass to Disneyland. We did. I'll tell a quick story because it's just kind of funny. We would go over the summer a lot when school wasn't in session, and we would go and we would do personal scavenger hunts And it wasn't like a traditional scavenger hunt where you actually had to find physical items. It was like it was about finding, count how many people you find, you see wearing bike shorts. Now this is back in the mid 90s. So bike shorts were, they were the equivalent to the yoga pants of today. Only it was men and women, and it was just not a good look. And I hope it never comes back. So whoever makes these decisions, if you're watching bike shorts, no. Just no on the bike shorts, okay? So we would, but that was fun for us. It wasn't the Disneyland experience. You kind of put it in perspective. I mean, like we were going to a place that costs now like $150 a day to go do, and we were fortunate enough to be able to get a pass and do this. So I do see people commenting, and hopefully it's going to show up here on our screen. But we'll answer these later. But my point is. That we would have the fun part for us was not the fact that we were there. It was that we were able to do these really stupid things. One was counting people in bike shorts. The other one was, you'll learn this about me, is a friend of mine and I, we are very adept. We are very skilled at pretending to throw up. The sound, the motions, very convincing. I mean, just from the initial, those to, not actually vomiting, but making it look really good. So the whole running joke, and I feel terrible about this now because I was a stupid teenager. I feel bad only because we caused people some physical pain, not permanent physical pain or anything. Don't get me wrong. But our goal was to see how many people we could get to actually throw up by us pretending to throw up. So we would come off of Space Mountain or Big Thunder Mountain or one of these faster rides like Star Tours, and then we would start grabbing our stomach and start leaning over and like, one of those, and then pretend to throw up in a trash can. And we would actually do this, and we would be like, and we would milk it for all it was worth. And it was a really fun, terrible thing to do. But we would get such a kick out of it. Like all of a sudden you'd see some like 14-year-old kid start to get really sick to his stomach. And then he would run for the next trash can. And he would be puking his brains out. That was the fun part. Disneyland and the ride, whatever. But the fun part was making someone vomit. We had another one where we were really, really trying to get kicked out. Our entire mission, after we went on our requisite rides and stuff and have a good time, and I know running up against the clock, so I will try and make this story short. But our goal was to get kicked out. So what I did, it was a cooler day in Southern California. I know. We have those there. And I wore a red sweatshirt to Disneyland. And we wanted to make a really big splash and try and get kicked out in a real grand fashion. So what I did was we went on the teacups. I don't know why we thought the teacups was the place to do this. But I think I had caught the idea from someone's stand-up comedy act. And I thought, let's try it. Let's just see what happens. And so we all had our own teacups, and I pretended that my hand got severed. No joke. So I just kind of moved the sweatshirt up, and it was already red, so you couldn't tell. It's kind of like Deadpool, if you don't want to have the blood show, wear red. So I moved the sweatshirt up. I said, "Stop the ride! My hand's been severed! Stop the ride!" They believed it, and they stopped the ride. And then I, popped my hand back through. I was like, "Oh, God, thank you so much. I feel so much better." And these kids are freaking out. The parents are freaking out. Everyone's freaking out that I had actually severed my hand on the teacups. And it's a terrible thing to do, and I did it. I apologize now to everyone that had to see that. But what's funny is that what I will tell you about security at Disneyland before, you'd see people around there, but they were coming out of literal trees. Like the trees are hollow, they're fake trees, but there'd be a door in a tree, and I kid you not, they would come out of the trees to kick me out of Disneyland. So I did get kicked out. Don't get me wrong. I did get kicked out. So they literally walked me to the exit, and of course, smart aleck me at 17 years old, 18 years old was like, "So do I not get my hand stamped?" So, moral of the story is, I could have had all this fun at Disneyland, going on the rides and enjoying it and saving up and enjoying the food like every other family does. But the thing was, is that the money part of it was not what made me happy. It was getting reactions out of people of doing stupid stuff. That was the thing. So enjoy what you have. Enjoy your car. Enjoy your crappy 1976 Ford Pinto if it gets you where you need to go. Enjoy all that. You'll eventually have money to get better stuff. And that'll make you happy too because you earned it. So for Pearson Sturtevant, I'm Sean Scott. We will see you next time on Tall Tips from Short Guys.